Hello, people. This is DJ from Pero, let me tell you. And today we're here at the Citadel in Miami, and we are really, really excited to have Denise and Alex from their new book, Ping Pam Pung. And we're going to be talking to them a little bit about Ping Pam Pung. I mean, anything called Ping Pam Pung other than the bed, it has to be pretty awesome. So thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us really quick. So, the inspiration about the book. It's obvious, but please tell our viewers where did this come from?
So, the inspiration was my lovely husband.
That was me. Yeah.
It's so funny because you never really think I'm gonna start this whole book thing. I'm gonna sell some books. We were on our way to like a gardener's market, and I remember saying something to him like, "Ese huevo quiere sal."
Ese huevo quiere sal. That's
and he was like, "What?"
I had no idea. Yeah.
No.
No idea
And
what it was.
now my husband's Cuban, but he was born and raised in New Jersey, and not
Sorry.
Union City. Not Union City.
Not Union City.
Union
So not northern Miami.
No.
So it wasn't the first time where he was like, "¿Qué?" And I was like, "No, I have to do something." So I started to write. I wrote down ese huevo quiere sal, and I remember there were a couple of other times where you were like, "What?" And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna figure this out." And this was at the end of last year, and then I spent all this time putting definitions together and then putting graphics together. And in the end, I'm like, I'm gonna surprise him for an anniversary gift, and I had the book printed. And that's kind of how it started. I got super attached to the book, and then I started showing it to friends and family. And they're like, "But I want a copy," and I want a copy. I was like, "All right, I'll print." I found an online printer, and I had a couple printed, and then I had a couple more printed. I was like, "Wait a minute now." So then I opened a store, and then it kind of all snowballed from there.
So if I'm understanding correctly, this kind of started as like a gag gift.
Well, no, you can say gag. I say passion project,
Passion project.
So how is it to be the inspiration of a Ping Pam Pung?
No, it's funny that again, like what she's saying. I've heard a lot of these sayings. Like I've heard a lot of these sayings. Let's just say, for example, like alabao. I've heard of, but some of them ones, like ese huevo quiere sal. I had no idea whatever, anything or ponte las pilas. Like I get it. What it's supposed to signify, but I'd never heard it used before.
Right.
So I'm like, what are you talking about? So she started to write these down, and she came up with the project. And then when I started to see her put the graphics together, it really started to make sense. And she came up with several of these, and they're hysterical. So I was very supportive. And then when she started to share them with her friends and colleagues, the response that she started to get from it was great.
Yeah, I've been
Created,
shocked.
yeah.
I've been shocked that like people. My favorite thing is when people write to me on like Instagram or social media, and they're like, "Oh my God, my grandmother used to say blah blah blah," and they like have these nostalgic memories. Right. That's the best.
Yeah, because really that's what it's all about. Because we use those terms, but those terms came from our parents and our grandparents and all that. So what I think is interesting is that you being Cuban, you weren't familiar with a lot of these terms. So when, she would use these terms, or when she explained the literal meaning of it, like, this egg wants salt, or as we were talking, lo que pica el pollo, this, what the chicken pecks. What did you think about all these, like, crazy literal translation?
That's the great part, is the literal translation. Like you said, like, what the chicken pecks? What are you talking about? But when you hear the literal translation, it's like, oh, that actually does make sense. When you put it into, like, when you compare it to real life terms.
Stop
like,
eating shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Comiendo
este
mierda.
come mierda. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, look at that. He's a shit eater, he's wasting his time. Or, tiene que ponte las pilas. Like, let's get going. We got to get going, things like that. So, like, it was hysterical to me, that, and a lot of these things, like, they do come from our moms, our abuelas. What's hysterical to me has also been the support and the commentary, like, from my parents. Right. My dad will be like, well, you have to include this one too.
Right.
Why isn't this one in the book? And then they'll even throw out some.
That's for volume 2.
Yeah, exactly. But they'll even throw out some like, oh no, wait a minute, what about this one? And some of them we haven't even heard of. Like, there's
Okay,
so many.
so are you using them now in your everyday,
Totally. Which one? You always talk about our dog.
I use alabao a lot now.
Echando guaperia.
Oh, I do that all the time. So we have a little puppy, right? And this puppy is the worst dog ever created. Okay, just horrible behavior. Made like Marley look like a saint.
Yeah,
right?
oh boy.
So it's just barking, and I'm like, está echando guaperia.
Está echando guapería, perro.
Echando guaperia. That's what he's doing.
So, and for our listeners and viewers, the book is great. It has awesome illustrations. And what I personally love is that not only did they put obviously the saying and the literal translation, I love that you used it in a sentence. So how did that go, creating like the actual text in terms of using all of this in a sentence? Because I feel a lot of times when we say these things, we don't really think about it.
No, and here's the thing: when I use it in a sentence, I usually speak in English, and then what comes out, my Cubanness comes out in those sayings. So I'll say a sentence in English, and I'll end it with alabao, right. And that's kind of how the book is very much like the way I speak. So. Right. It kind of just came naturally.
I have to tell you, on a personal note, something that I didn't know until maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. I knew what a ping pong pong was, and I used the term ping pong pong all the time, but I never really stopped to think about it, that it was ping pong pong. What the 3-step process of opening up a rolling bed. Ping pong pong. Who knew that opening up a rolling bed is ping pong pong? Who knew?
About user experience, right? Ping pong pong. It can't be any easier.
Right, but what is interesting about ping pong pong is that we use it to just, and when something is like, oh, it's easy, it's like ping pong pong, you know, like.
Yeah, it's a very
yeah, it's true.
Not only when you're unrolling a bed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, you know, this is really taken off, as you said. Where do you guys see yourselves going in terms of like branding this or having a second volume?
Well, it's so funny because originally I just thought this was like a one-off thing, but more and more people are sending me their favorite Cubanisms.
Right.
So, to be honest, I don't know where we're going, but we're going somewhere. Could it be a volume 2? Could it be like a deluxe edition? Could it be more products? I don't know, but it's definitely something that has legs, and just seeing the response, the organic response from people.
That's been the thing. The organic response about it is just you send them out to different social influencers. Like, you guys have been a great help, or there have been some other social influencers that have been very helpful for us, and then just that expanded reach, that organically, it just kind of spreads out throughout Miami, and then they'll have on comments on some of the posts, people will be suggesting, oh, you need to try this one, or how about this one? So like, moving forward, a great idea would be choose your own. Like, you know, give us an idea for a Cubanism that we haven't included on the book.
Fan favorites, fan favorites, that kind of thing.
Because these are the type of things, and we talk about this on our podcast a lot, that you don't realize it's your culture. You know, you grew up with these sayings, and you didn't really put any thought to it. That's just what you said. But then you realize that that's what shapes your culture. So I think that's why when you put it in a medium like a print, a book, you know, whatever, a T-shirt, it really hits home, because it's like, oh, there you go. So so now that you guys are doing this, what is of all the sayings you came up with, what is like your personal favorite?
I think it's probably a tie between alabao and ponte las pilas. Only because I feel like I use them so much. Especially at work. I feel like at work, you know, you're in an office, you're in the United States, you're speaking English, and then all of a sudden you hear something and you're just like, alabao. So I would say alabao and ponte las pilas, because, you know, you gotta ponte las pilas.
It'll be funny if you tell, you know, one of your English coworkers, like, put your batteries on, dude. Because alabao doesn't have a translation.
No.
That's what I think. I was telling you before we were filming the interview, of like, I love the literal translations when you try to make them in English, right. Like of what the chicken nibbles or pecks. You left me planted. Yes, you left me planted like a potted plant.
And the illustrations are the great thing. Is
like a succulent.
The illustrations also really tie it together.
Yeah.
You know, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go at Chanda Waparia. I do like that one a lot. Again, mainly because of our horrible little dog that we have. But you always do see that. I saw Chanda Waparia. I think it's just a cool, very funny saying. You know.
Yeah. So, well, thank you guys so much for being on. Pero let me tell you, we are super excited about this project. Here's the book. It is awesome. It's, you know, what I love about the book, it's like, it's really good quality, but it's great for everyone. It's great, obviously, you know, to pick it up if you grew up with these sayings. It's great as a gift. It's great for that coworker or friend that, you know, maybe doesn't speak Spanish but loves our culture and is kind of gonna be like, what is all this, all these crazy sayings. So there's something, there's something for everybody in this book. So we wish you guys a ton of luck and success. This is really awesome, and you've really captured so much what our essence and our culture is. So thank you so much for being on. Pero let me tell you. So
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
thank you guys.